Useless, useless, useless. What high-profile figure were Palestinian officials talking about? They made the comment 13 years ago, when Israeli-Palestinian peace talks were at a standstill. The international Middle East envoy was criticized at the time for not doing enough, not pressuring Israel, not prioritizing the right issues, not delivering breakthroughs. So who was the useless, useless, useless envoy dismissed by Palestinian officials? None other than former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. The same year that Blair had resigned amid outrage at the UK invasion of Iraq, he got a new job in the region as the envoy of the Middle East Quartet, a diplomatic coalition of the US, Russia, the EU, and the UN aiming to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But after 8 years in the role, he resigned with nothing to show for it. The chief Palestinian negotiator at the time, Nabil Shaif, said Blair had achieved so very little because of his gross efforts to please the Israelis. Rather than being a mediator who is ready to engage and hold parties responsible, senior Palestinian official Mohammed Shteye accused Blair of simply giving statements of constructive ambiguity that really leads us nowhere. The Israelis seem to at least partly agree, with the BBC reporting at the time that they like Mr. Blair because they believe he is on their side, and thought he was weak and irrelevant when it came to actual negotiations. Even senior Western diplomats called his departure long overdue, arguing he has been ineffective in this job and has no credibility in this part of the world. He tried to focus on economic opportunities for Palestinians, but without challenging the occupation of the West Bank and blockade of Gaza, destroying these opportunities. By the end of his tenure, over 500 checkpoints still remained in the occupied West Bank, where movement restrictions, expanding settlements, and regular closures of entire towns thwarted the very economic growth he'd envisioned. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Blair did little to challenge Israel's tight control of goods entering the Strip, supporting its demand that all items be checked at Ashdod port, from which some could be sent on to Gaza. This helped give the impression that Israel was easing restrictions, even though very little changed in Palestinians' daily lives. When Palestinians tried to overcome this problem by advocating for a Palestinian state at the UN, Blair warned the move would be deeply confrontational. His eventual resignation marked the failure of this program, as well as growing controversy over his own potential conflicts of interest in the region. His responsibility for economic initiatives overlapped with the launch of his consulting firm, Tony Blair Associates, and his role as senior advisor for JP Morgan Chase, which had made loans to some of the companies involved in these initiatives. These roles invited scrutiny because of his numerous visits to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi before his ouster, some of them on Gaddafi's private jet, as well as to Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and several Gulf leaders. This focus on business opportunities to the seeming neglect of political solutions can be seen in his approach to the conflict today. In recent months, he's met with President Trump's former Middle East envoy Jared Kushner, as well as Benjamin Netanyahu and his close advisor Ron Dermer, to discuss plans for post-war Gaza. During that time, his staff at the Tony Blair Institute modeled a Gaza Riviera project that proposed paying some Palestinians to leave the enclave in order to transform it into a high-tech trading hub. Now, Blair is set to be a future member of
the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace,
under Trump's new Gaza peace plan, which is very similar to Blair's own proposal for post-war Gaza. Chaired by
a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States,
the board will oversee a hand-picked technocratic committee whose authority is limited to providing day-to-day services in the destroyed Strip. Yet it gives little idea of how to ensure that Israel's military withdraws fully, where Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank can achieve self-determination. Instead, it once again returns Blair to economically managing a Palestinian people while offering them no way out of occupation, the same job he was forced to leave in resounding failure over 10 years ago.